Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today's topic is one that has generated considerable discussion and debate in my circle personally. We've pondered over questions like how tall will Hyderabad buildings be? Are home buyers ready to embrace these towering skyscrapers as residences? What's driving these tall structures? Will the government continue to support and approve these developments? These are some of the questions that I have personally had a lot of discussion in my circle. Well, some of these, only time will tell. But one thing is clear, builders are certainly optimistic. As you can see on the screen, there are a number of projects that are really tall and over 50 floors. That's what we're looking at on the screen. And with Hyderabad's unique regulations, many developers have literally reached for the sky. And if you're on social media, you will see the stunning drone videos of some of these, and what's really shaping the new skyline. Today, as the thumbnail and as the topic introduction sort of suggests, we are exploring the tallest residential buildings in Hyderabad. But before we go into the list itself and explore the different clusters, let's just quickly understand, why we're seeing such dramatic rise in skyscrapers. I'm happy to share my POV, but please do share your, comments and anything that we've missed out. There are three predominant contributors, in my opinion. The first is the no FSI limit. Let me quickly transition over to another image for us to get a sense. Yes, so what you're seeing on the screen is a quick benchmark of Hyderabad versus some of the other major metros in India and what the FSI limits are. For those unfamiliar, FSI dictates how much built up area can be constructed in a given piece of land. As you can see on the screen, other cities have benchmarks, and Hyderabad is the only city where there's no fixed FSI currently. And just for you to get an idea, if we look at Chennai as an example, which is 6.5 near a metro or a station, what this means is in an acre of land parcel, the builder or the developer has the authority to construct and sell 6.5 times the acre in terms of the total square foot area that they can sell. And this is one of the biggest factors as to why we see such towering skyscrapers in Hyderabad. And you have these hoardings that say South India's biggest tower is because of the regulation. Second, coming back to the biggest effect that is actually driving some of these towering skyscrapers again. Now, land prices have dramatically escalated, not just in the central parts, but even in the other parts of the town, right? So then the builder clearly has an option to either build extra floors in a developed location or go farther away. And given that they've already poured a lot of money and agreed into, how tall the structure is, you will generally see builders, let's say offer 40 floors, but eventually, increase that to 45. So this is because of competing land prices and their existing commitments, their existing approvals would have already had certain floor limit, but they try and sort of maximize their yield. And this is one of the other factors why we see a much more concentrated development and such tall structures. The third, which I believe is hard to, ignore. For me personally, it's hard to imagine so many tall projects taking off without some understanding of market demand. I believe there's high active acceptance of these high-rise living, especially in Hyderabad, combined with the appeal of gated communities and panoramic views that has fueled this trend. Many people, especially those who have probably lived abroad or traveled, are open to the idea of living on the 50th floor to enjoy the views that the city has to offer. Now, mind you, not all tall towers translate to luxury living. In fact, some of them could not even be offering this. In my previous video, we've touched upon density as a concept, which is a stronger proxy for premiumness and luxury living. But the higher the tower or the higher the building, it does not necessarily translate to more premiumness. So, in my opinion, from a consumer standpoint, it is important you understand what you're getting into. Let's say you're picking up a unit on the 45th floor. Why are you doing it? You're doing it from a standpoint that I'll get better views, then it makes sense. Else, just also imagine how much upfront cost you're paying, how much additional costs you are having to incur to get that view, and how view is that going to be over a period of time. So don't just look at the short term, but also look at the long term, because these investments are quite substantial. We don't have a lot of history here, and as you can see, there are pretty much 20 projects that are over 50 floors, and there's one project that is closer to handover, which is the SAS Crown. Pretty much everybody in the western part of Hyderabad would have heard of this, and so we don't have a lot of history in terms of what living in these societies and communities looks like, because most of them are still under construction. Quickly to cover the pros and cons, and again, this is my perspective. Please feel free to share your perspective in the comments below. Some of the pros would be, terrific views, transforming city skyline. You truly get a sense of, you're entering an area which is upscale, offering impressive views, and also concentrated development. You don't have to spread out and travel 20, 30 kilometers apart and find a residential community. You can um, have a society, have a neighborhood that is quite hybrid, where you have these 50 floor apartments and a commercial unit right next to it. So that way, from a pros perspective, it's quite concentrated in terms of development. It also saves infra costs for the government. That's the pro from a government standpoint. The cons being, as you go taller, it means you're stuffing more people in a smaller piece of land. Not always, but mostly the case. Which means you need a lot of good infra to avoid the decongestion and make sure that things like water supply, traffic flow, all of them are in good shape. And we will see, where is that in a good shape as we explore some of the projects. I'm curious what your take on, the skyscrapers in Hyderabad are. Would you prefer vertical form of a living, or would you rather explore, driving down another 20 kilometers and living in a, either villa or self-constructed unit or another apartment? I'd be really keen because this is, like I mentioned, a topic that is, come up many times in my circle. All right. With that, coming to the last topic, let's understand, how many projects exist, what kind of projects they are. We're, like I mentioned, filtering only to the projects that are 50 floors and above. I will not go into each of these projects. There are about 20, just for your knowledge. But we will go into the key clusters so that you get a sense of where it's predominantly taking shape. So the first cluster is this belt between Financial District and Kokapet. This is where most of the projects are. There's Vamsiram, Newmark, Samudra, Palais Royal. All of these got recently announced. SAS Crown is, closer to possession. Jayberry Pinnacle just got announced. Elena, Tralite. So this is the main cluster, and imagine you're probably sitting on the 40th floor. Just be sure that you're getting some sort of substantial views, um, if you're opting for a property on this particular road. The second cluster is definitely Neopolis. It makes sense why the builders have gone this far for two reasons. The higher you go, potentially you have good views of Osman Sagar, Gandipet Lake. And this is also on a terrain, so it helps builders take advantage of the contour. The second reason is the land prices. They've shelved quite a bit to get the land parcel in first place. So that's the second cluster that we're looking at. This is 90% of where the high rise buildings exist today. The outliers are there's Manhattan by Vamsiram, which is in Kajagoda, and then down south you have Navnami Meghalaya, which is also 50 floors. And then you have some exceptions here, which is Aparna Sarovar Towers, recently launched as well. Rajpushpa Prudential not yet launched. There's not a lot of information yet. And then there is this Candia Crescent, which personally I believe you don't have the good infra around this project, and for that matter even Nalaganda, for you to go for 50 floors. Yes, so those are the outliers, but the cluster currently in the market that's sitting would be the Kokapet Financial District belt along the ORR. And it makes sense, you have an ORR to ORR drive, and it becomes quite convenient for you to access any of these properties, and then the Neopolis. All right, that's everything that I had in mind for today's video. Like I mentioned, feel free to share your perspective, anything that I've missed, any other project that we should be looking into, the high rises. There are many that are 40 floors and above, many. So that's why we've not included that in our purview. But feel free to keep the discussion going, and happy to get your perspective. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.